Here's a patch of willows. I'm gonna bend it, kind of get the fibers on tension. And there we go. I cut it off. It's longer than arm's length. Here's how to make a clean cut. You put the fibers on tension and you rock your knife at a 45-degree angle, letting the tension help you cut. You take your time. You rock it a little bit. Rock it, rock it. Let the branch bend a little bit more. Now I can do this faster, but I wanted you to see. Welcome to another episode of For You to Survive. Today's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to make a lot of projects out of willow, or show how to really get a lot out of willow. Yeah, this is a multi-tool. Stay tuned to see how I make this multi-tool bow. This is the time of year where the bark on willows peel. So we can do a lot with that. We could do a lot of nice things with the willow bark. And I'm not going to give you medical advice, but taking the outer bark off and cutting it, give you a little bit of a, kind of like a part of a stick of gum. I chew on that. It's bitter, like anything, but it's a pain reliever, and it's helped me get rid of a headache before. Not 100%. You can actually do stuff with the sticks whenever they're finished too. You can imagine how this could be weaved into something. So willow offers a lot. Something worth noting when you're processing your willow, you can just kind of pull off the branches, and then it's easier to clean. Your hands are the tools. What would the fun of a For You to Survive video be if we didn't take it to the next level? I have this piece of willow, the sapling that I took, and this is the bark from it. It's quite a long piece. Well, what I can do is tie an overhand knot on one side, come down here, trying to keep all the bark in line. And then I'll tie another overhand knot. There we go. I got two trees that are close together, so I'll put the knot in there. I'll use it like a little pressure wedge. Now I can turn in one direction only. I'm making a single wrap piece of cordage. Now I could flip-flop the fiber, so thick end, thick end, thin end, so it's a more uniform diameter, but I want to show you the concept here. And we'll just quickly finish up here. Here's a close-up of how the bark's between the two trees. I got the knot up there. The knot's wedged between the two trees, and that holds it for me as I twist the string or cordage. Now I have an amazingly strong piece of cord. So that just shows what's possible. You might think to yourself, well, I have the ability to tie things together. Maybe this is what you use for a shelter. You put a knot in and tie your shelter together. Countless uses. Here's two trees tied together. I have the willow branch cut, or sapling in this case, cut. Now it's time to take the knife. I cut it at an angle, as you saw. I could easily take a saw and cut it straight. I can cut it straight off at a nice flat surface, but I want to show you what to do if you don't have a saw. So I'm going to put my thumb not over the blade, but just to the side of it, so I can spin the sapling. And that's going to give me a nice curve, a nice circle. Now I have a guide. I can remove I can remove some wood here in a nice organized manner. So essentially what I'm going to do is cut it nice and flat as if I sawed it. So this knife kind of acted like a saw. So if you can see that, that's what it looks like. Now I'm going to take about a hand closure. And I'm going to make a mark. I'm going to do the same thing all around. I'm going to score it all the way around. The thicker end is here, the thinner end is here, and that's going to be vital later on. Sometimes I find it's best to score it next to itself. So now I can push out some of the bark. So here's some of the bark removing like a ring. Now I have this ring. A classic technique is you tap it. That loosens up the bark. Then, let's be safe here. Then you can twist it. You almost have to wrestle it. If it doesn't go the first time, you gotta tap it some more. Nothing wrong with that. Knowing a technique is vital. You don't want to tap it too hard that the bark breaks. Let's see how we did there. There we go. Now the bark's movable. Before I do that, I'm going to go about a finger width away and make like a little line here. And then cut a notch. Make my stop cut, and then make my little notch here. And then this is making a whistle. Some of you figured it out already, but that's what we got there. Now I'm going to carefully slide off the bark. And the good thing is, because there's a notch there, I know how to line up the bark. So that's going to go here. This part's tricky now. I want to cut in here, but I don't want my knife to slip and cut everything off. So I'm going to go nice and easy. You need to make a hollow in here, making that stop cut again, because a whistle needs some depth to it. Notice how my fingers and hands are far away enough. Okay, I got to the center of the wood, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper, trying to make the cuts as clean as possible. Okay, that's pretty good. And then this, gonna make the original I would like to make sure the original stop cut is nice and flat. Okay, that's about as far as reasonable. Of course, now we got to make a little cut on the end, so when we blow into the whistle, it will have some air to pass through it. We'll reapply the bark carefully, and it feels like it pops when it's in the right spot. I need a little more space for the whistle to work, so I'm going to cut. Let's give this a go. It's lined up. Hey, whistle. Survival signaling. Now, I'm going to take that off. I'm going to keep this part of the whistle, put it in my pocket. And it's good to make it a little bit more of an angle here, because that way whenever the bark shrinks when it dries, it has some room to work. So there will be a bigger airspace. So I'll just carefully carve. My body's going to prevent me from having a knife blade go too far. That way my body stops the knife blade instead of it traveling fast. Okay. Let's see if the whistle still works. Still works. Oh yeah, it works. Make sure to leave enough branch so you can actually hold it. The next phase is you're going to tap the bark. You can do it with your knife. Go all the way around. Once you have it all around, you're going to loosen it up so it gets to the point where it is free. I used a bigger piece of bark just to show you, but before we take this away, we want to make sure that we cut in here. We want to make sure we do a stop cut, and then we carve inside. So now we have this. Now when this is ready, that's when we remove it. So now that this part's removed, it looks like this. What we got to do inside is we got to keep removing some of the wood to make it shallow. And you make your stop cuts and you clean it up. Once you made it deeper, or as deep as you want to go, then I usually cut this part off. I cut that off. So we cut into it. And then, once we make that cut, I generally like to have space. So sometimes I'll make this space between the bark and the wood a little bit larger so it'll work weeks later once this bark dries out. But you have to experiment and see what works for you. We'll pocket that. Now, I'm not done. I still have some utility with this bark. I'm going to peel up a little bit. So now I want to get like 50-50. You see how the fork is here? Well, if I come all the way down, I want to take the part of the bark where the fork would be, and I'm going to say it's about that. What I'm trying to do is tear this off in a continuous piece. I'll do the same thing with the bottom. I think the bottom's going to be a good start. And because it's peeling season, it comes off nicely. What I can do is roll, kind of roll in my hand. And that gets it started. And I'm going to roll it again. That way I have some control. You don't want to just pull fast. This part right here is not really attached, so I'm going to make sure it comes along for the ride. Now I'm going to pull on the bigger side, kind of rolling carefully. And it's working out well. There we go. There's a little knot here, so I'll just pick that off so the bark doesn't rip as I continue to peel. Sometimes it's better to go with the bigger part of the bark because that way it stays intact better. Those mosquitoes are out today. So a little bit more to finish up. Now here's an interesting situation. I could take this bark and single wrap it. So I'm going to single wrap the bark. I'll put it together just like I did for the mulberry bowstring when I was in Greece. So I'm single wrapping it. Twist, twist, twist. The thing about this is it's much faster. It's much faster than reverse wrapping. And sometimes if you're in a hurry for a fire, you want to get your fire started. Then you can nicely twist up the cord. So that's a good technique to know. There's many times I started a fire with a bow with the same stick. But the thing about this is this it's a little bit thin, so it may not work, which I'm aware of, but of course I'm going to try. So there's my single wrap. And I like to have the outer bark on the outside. What I could do, it's optional, I could put an overhand knot on the end, kind of keep things together. There's the overhand knot. Now if I want, I can come around the fork and let the fork help me. So essentially this bow is armpit to about fingertip or so long. So now that gives me a chance to use some hand tension to try to make it work. This bow is extra long because, well, I wanted to put a whistle on it. I wanted to make sure there was enough bark for getting this done. Okay, for those of you with an artistic flair, that circling we did with the thumb away from the knife blade, circle and twist, move away a little bit, circle and twist, making sure you cut through the layer of the bark. Then you just kind of cut through the bark. Now you can make a really artistic bow. Still a whistle. The beauty of this whistle is it's a signal. So you can go 3 short blasts, 3 long blasts, and then 3 short blasts for the SOS. Or you can do it in groups of 3s. Or, that's the general. But if you want to go SOS, you go and repeat that. So that's your signaling lesson. Here's how to get some bark. Use the back of the knife. And there's the fine bark. Just keep going until you get plenty. And that's what's going to turn our ember into flames. We just need more of it. Now we're starting to get somewhere. When you go, sometimes the bark gets stuck on your knife, and then you have to clean it off. And then you can continue to keep scraping, because when that bark gets stuck on the blade, it limits how much you can actually scrape and remove. Keep the business end of the spindle off the ground. Start a whole time. I can single wrap or double wrap the spindle. So I'm single wrapping the bowstring, twisting it in one direction. This is single wrapping the spindle. If I want to double wrap the spindle, I go around again. That's double wrapping the spindle. But because willow bark is so strong and robust, I can single wrap the spindle. I'll use my hand tension. That knot's coming in handy. So automatically I don't like what I did. I have the bow twisted the wrong way. Okay, now things are lined up right. The spindle's on the outside of the bowstring. The bowstring's not twisted up. Give a little more twist action here, because twisting is strength. Now we can burn this in. Alright, that's a quality burn in. Now it's time for the notch. I want to make sure the spindle stays above the ground. I'll cut a notch real quick. Make my stop cut. It's important that you don't make the first notch, or really any notches, too close to the edge of the fireboard because the notch can break off. This is going pretty quick. Okay. I'm about the near center of the hole. Now to get some leaves to catch the ember. It's smooth, so here we go. Making sure the bow's lined up in my hand correctly. Got some tension there. I'll load the spindle. I'm trying to keep some tension in there. Oh, you saw a lot of bending in that bow. I'm not trying to break the bow though. Time for an ember. This spindle is actually the one from the leaf socket one, so it's not pointed enough for using fat wood as in the socket, but I can still make it work. Things are happening. A little bit of oxygen. All right, that's what I'd like to see. We have an ember. This fell on the ground, so I'll put it underneath. So it's still usable. Put that powder in. Might as well use it. I worked for it. Keep everything together in one pile. I want a minimal transfer distance right into the fine cedar bark. Normally I like a softball size bunch of bark or fine kindling for tinder, but this is a demonstration and I don't want to have a fire hazard. So there's the flames already. So that's successful. My plan was put it in the damp area there so it's safe. So the interesting thing is this bow is also a survival whistle. Just have to reattach it. You got to be delicate with this, and it feels like it pops into place. It turns just right.